Hey everyone, welcome to Dallo Podcast, episode 99. This week I have my dad, Wubs, David, and Colin, and we're going to be talking about the Cape Crusader Batman animated series on Amazon, as well as what we've been watching and just news drops that's been coming out this last couple of weeks and months. So back to the normal routine of an episode that we normally do. But guys, let's get into the whole Batman Cape Crusader. Of course, this is Bruce Timm coming back to do a retelling of the Batman animated series, but in a different direction. Of course, he changes things. He's added some villains that, of course, were never in the original series either, that are more comic book accurate. It's got a pretty wide range of cast of characters and actors in the series. So what do we want to touch on as far as like the structure of the show, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it?
I can add the one thing I know about it. What's with Penguin?
Yeah, that's
What
what
happened?
that's what everybody was saying.
What happened?
I mean, it's
Somebody
the
explain it
it's
to
I mean, it's the
me.
first episode, right?
Yes,
And
very first episode.
I don't know that it can be explained. Like I know there was that interview that came out a little while ago about Tim talking about how the quote was that Batman doesn't have any good villains or something along the lines of that, right? But I think if you read the quote in context, I think he's more specifically talking about female villains. I think he was meaning to say there's no good female Batman villains, and so they just said, yeah, let's just gender swap Penguin. Except instead of it being gender swap, now Penguin is also
Exactly,
going
Colin.
Penguin's
Exactly.
now Penguin's going to be 6'6", 350 pounds. Like what was I thinking of it? I was thinking that this version of Penguin is just low IQ Kingpin is what this is.
So
And the really amazing creative touch that they're going to put on it is that they're going to take Penguin's name and put an A at the end, and that'll wrap the full bow around it, right?
Oh my God.
Okay, so Wubs, did you watch it?
Sadly, yes.
So I'll
Um,
let you go next, and then I'll go last on it, since
oh,
we're the
okay.
three who've watched it.
Yeah. I mean, I think David summarized it pretty good there. My understanding was that Bruce Timm, I guess they're in the writer's room, and for whatever reason, you know, people who write comics and, animated shows or whatever, they just ran out of ideas all of a sudden on, any kind of new product or character, and we're like, well, you know, Bruce Timm's sitting there and he doesn't even remember what they've done in the past because he thinks that Batman has no good female villains when in fact Batman has the best female villains in comics by far. It's not even close, in my humble opinion. Um, so he says, "Hey, Batman has no good female villains. Let's, do something about that." And I guess I can't remember if it was him or somebody else said, "Hey, what if we make Penguin a woman or whatever?" And I guess they all just cheered and, the Oompa Loompas got to work. I don't know. That's how I picture it, I guess, from the article I read anyway. So yeah, Colin, that's what happened, as far as I know.
it's really bad when the character isn't portrayed anywhere near any of the media that we've ever seen the Penguin as. Um, and then on top of that, she like kills her children. So she's like
Well,
Mrs. Beagle from the
but
Beagle
but
Boys,
hold on.
but
But you need
worse.
to put that in context though, because this is why I call her low IQ Kingpin. Because the whole setup is her main, the main conflict with this penguin is that she is taking over or at least combating Thorn, right?
Mhm.
And so the episode opens with her trying to kill Thorn, and then Thorn shows up on her yacht and goes, "Hey, you know that mole that's feeding me all this information that you've been trying to find? Well, guess what? It's that guy." And then she immediately turns and goes, "It's you? Kill him." It's like your main nemesis, your arch nemesis, the person that you hate the most in the world and are actively trying to kill, just points at someone and says, "Yeah, that's the guy that's working for me," and that's I guess her right hand man got lucky, and Thorn didn't, point the finger at him, or she would have killed him.
It should have killed anybody.
And David Frost.
David.
Including her own son, right? Because he
Yeah,
was
Well,
he's
her
that's what
taken
that's
son.
what he
over all this.
That's what he's talking about. Her killing her son. She would have killed anybody.
Right.
She was ruthless as you come. And
Stupid.
she was
No, she's stupid.
so
That's what she
dumb.
was.
Yeah, she
So
was
no,
dumb.
no. She
Yeah.
was dumb.
Yeah.
I understand that. I
Yeah,
understand. But you got to understand where he was going, because this wasn't the Batman from the animated series. This is
Right.
pre that. Just kind of it's 20s, 30s.
Yeah, it's
when
1930s Batman.
gangsters who, yes, in the mob, if you messed up, even your own son had to die because you had to make examples of
But generally,
him so that
there
your
was evidence
minions.
planted.
No,
There
you're
was, like,
right. I'm not
something.
arguing that point. It was badly written, but understand,
Yes.
it was badly
No.
written.
No,
And
I
both
got
me
the
have
intent.
discussed
It was
that
just
I-
awful.
Yeah, it
But-
was paint by numbers. Let's make this story.
Oh, you couldn't say
coherent.
this is paint by numbers, because
No,
paint
it-
by numbers is you're going to make Penguin a male. You might have given him sons,
No,
and he
because
did
the
this.
thing is, it's paint by numbers of what is today. It is not like this is a.
Well, you need to frame. You need to say that.
Well, I
You
didn't
need-
get to
what
finish.
you're trying
I didn't
to
get
say
finish
is
that.
woke. It's woke.
Well,
Okay,
it is.
it
There's a
was
lot of that.
woke.
There's a lot of problems with this show that are because it's like we have a checkbox of things that we need to hit
That's right.
for it to be appropriate. And it's like, no, you don't. Just tell a good story. Tell
But-
these.
Most people today throw around woke like other words and don't really understand what the word means. Okay. The problem is, at the beginning, it started in the writer's room, and it started with the leadership, and that would be Tim. I put this on Tim because I said that before. I
Yes.
don't know what he was thinking.
Oh yeah.
The fact is that they decided that from the outset that Batman did not have enough
Female villain.
female villains, somebody who could give him a run for his money and all this other stuff. So if you look at it, look at the whole series. Basically, all but 3 of them are females. You've got Clayface, you've got Gentleman Ghost, and you got Two-Face.
And Clayface.
And pretty much everybody out.
You said
I
Clayface
said
first.
Clayface. Thank you.
And Firebug.
And then all the rest of them
Firebug,
are females, and so that was where they were going to go with this. You had to know, watching it from the very first episode, okay, I know where you're going with this. If you can look beyond that, you might be able to find some good stories in there, and we did. I would have liked to seen who wrote these stories. I didn't look close enough at who was writing each episode.
But
And then you can go back and look at what they've written and see what their wokeness or what their political agenda is.
But to sit there and say that Batman doesn't have good female villains is like Kathleen.
I'm not
you have
saying
no
that.
source
So,
material
hold on.
for the Star Wars.
So let's try and be good faith to Tim really quick. So let's eliminate the big 4, right? So that's what Catwoman, Ivy, Harley, Talia, right? Those are the 4 that are the easy to go to that everyone's just gonna immediately run into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
if we eliminate those 4, who's next in line?
Mockingbird,
Roxy Rocket.
Roxy. God, I'd have to go and look. I have an encyclopedia of Batman, so there's a ton of.
And the funny thing about Roxy is that she was developed during the OG animated series, right? She's not from the comics.
Yeah.
Just like Harley
Yep.
Quinn, and that's one of the things that really kind of breaks my
But
heart
wait,
about this.
Harley Quinn. But you got to remember there was a
No,
Harley Quinn.
yes, I know there's
Okay.
the Golden Age one, but that's very different, right? Very different than the Harley
Very
Quinn that
different.
we have.
Yeah.
The one
But
that
she started
infuses
off as a
all of
villain.
DC stuff.
She started off as a villain, and she
Mhm.
became kind of an anti-hero.
But I mean, that's the sad part about it is that you have so Harley Quinn and Mr. Freeze are 2 villains that got these glow ups in the animated series and have now become the defining versions of these characters. Is there anything redefining about this version of Penguin that they decided to make this
No.
change to?
No,
No,
nothing.
not
Absolutely
at
nothing.
all.
She's
She
was a one-note villain that is
did
not gonna
nothing
come
really
back.
memorable
Yeah.
except for kill her son over a stupid, in an incredibly idiotic way. And it felt, that first episode felt like it set the tone of laziness, right? Just laziness when it comes to these writers. And that was the sad part about it, was because you have so the reinvention of Harlequin in this show. I don't know. I don't know if you left it in our last review, but I said that she makes me think of a combination of Scarecrow and the Mad Hatter, right?
Yeah.
Where she's kind of breaking people psychologically instead of using the little mind control chips that Tetch uses to control everything. And it's like, on paper, when I say that, that sounds like an interesting enough villain, but the way that the fact that it's Harley Quinn, and there's no reason for her to be the clown. There's
correct.
there's nothing given about why she's that way or anything. It's just, hey, everybody, here's a name that you know and remember, instead of like what Wubs said, right? Roxy Rocket, completely created like out of whole cloth for a show. So
if I remember, Harlequin dolls, originally some of the old school Harlequin dolls were two-faced. They would have one white and one black side of their face.
Sure.
My grandmother used to have a bunch of them. She called them Harlequins. And so I think that tells you a lot about the personality, that if you're going to create a character with that name, what you have to have somebody who is in conflict with themselves, to have a good side, bad side. We had that with Two-Face, but Two-Face fixed it by flipping a coin and leaving everything up to fate. With that kind of idea of Harlequin, she started off good. Of course, now Tim created her for the Batman animated. But since then, she's become part of the Batman lexicon. So you've got this character who was a good person, was driven insane by somebody who she fell in love with, who abused her, and then she rejected him and then became a good person. And now she's kind of moved back towards this chaotic evil, this arcane thing where she does good at some points, does bad in the other, and it doesn't bother her either way.
I think that was
why not
chaotic neutral?
Why not just
chaotic neutral? Yeah.
Why not just make her Scarecrow?
Well, because that's kind of like Catwoman, right? Catwoman's kind of more in that way. She can really go either way.
Yeah, and exactly. I wouldn't call Scarecrow that way, because Scarecrow was just
no, but why not make her Scarecrow? Why not put it?
Well, and that's what I told you. She reminded me of Scarecrow more than anything else, other than the guy who used to work at Arkham, who was the head of Arkham, who loved Batman and drove his patients insane, and at one point put on Batman's outfit. I cannot remember his name.
Hugo Strange.
Hugo Strange. And so I was like, she reminds me a little bit of Hugo Strange, but she uses fear to control her people by breaking them. And controlling. My problem was with the series was throwaway characters, man. You end up putting in what is his
Firebug.
name? Firebug, which he gets Firefly, who gets killed. You throw in the King Tut, who ends up and like, if you're gonna do something like that, why not go back and pull out some of these old villains, even if they came from the 1960s Batman show, which is where King Tut started. I mean, you've got Egghead, you've got they've overdone Mr. Freeze. They've overdone so many of Batman's villains now. That
I want to see Condiment Man come back.
I do no, or Kite Man.
I'd like to say
but here's the thing, Floyd. We could have had a Condiment Man be the villain of the first episode. Like this big buildup. He's like some new gangster in town. Everybody's afraid of him, and it turns out to be Condiment Man right at the end. That would have been infinitely better than
that. Would have been
Penguin.
Better, yeah.
And if they wanted to go dark with it, they could just have him like deep frying people, right? And then
get out of here! Oh, that's gross.
He's serving them up as hot dogs.
Well, that's how he's gonna destroy Gotham City with trans fats.
That's
right. That's what he's doing. He's distributing trans fats to the masses.
Yes. No, see, that's what you do. No, Colin, you just had it. You make Condiment Man Korean, and then you have Korean corn dogs, and that's what it is, because that's where all the crazy condiments go on top of it.
There you go.
That'd be amazing. See, looky there. And
you get representation.
We just brainstormed
you get
a better iteration.
Asian Condiment Man.
Yeah,
that's right.
So he's going to.
I'm down with that.
He's going to kill
sweet and sour and soy sauce.
He's got minions: duck sauce, soy sauce.
God.
Hot mustard.
See, again,
I think
in
that would have
5
been
minutes, we
better
just-
than both the episodes I saw. I can tell you that. Like,
Okay, so
by
you
far.
didn't watch all the episodes?
Dude, I couldn't make it past the second one. I saw the second one. I was like, I'm done. I can't do
Man,
this.
Oh, you didn't.
Bruce
we are
Wait,
the
Timm is
wait,
only
just
wait,
like,
whoa,
true.
whoa, whoa,
just
whoa.
wrecked this.
The
We are
second
the only true
episode was.
troopers.
Hold on,
Let me
Clayface.
ask
hold on.
this. Let me ask
Second
this.
episode was
Yeah.
Clayface.
The way everybody's describing Penguin
Yeah.
in the female form reminds me of the Trunch Bowl.
The what?
The Trunch Bowl.
I don't even get that reference.
It might.
No,
I was gonna
Nobody
say.
knows Matilda. Nobody knows Matilda.
Oh, Matilda.
Oh,
Man,
yeah,
it's been-
Matilda,
It's
yeah.
Trunch
been a
Bowl.
hot
Oh,
minute
yes.
since I watched that.
Yes, she actually looks like her. You mean the lady who ran the
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The lady in the
Okay.
tracksuit with the weight.
Was it Trench Bowl? I thought it was
It's the Trunch Bowl.
something.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to get
You
back
know
to
where my-
Wubs because I started liking it with the Scarecrow. I mean, not Scarecrow. The
Clayface.
Clayface episode.
Because they went with the original.
Yeah, because it went back to
Right.
way back to the original storyline of him
Mhm.
before. What was
Hagen.
it? It was the second one who found the thing underwater, which had was almost like a genie's bottle, and it opened it and it got on him and it made him pliable. Because I kind of got tired of the giant monster Clayface. I like the idea of somebody who, going back to Chameleon and Spider-Man, who could be anybody at any time, could frame anybody he wanted.
Right.
Perfect. You're going to rob a bank and go be whoever you want. Go in there as Commissioner Gordon and then, let
think
them be chasing Gordon down.
But the problem with this episode with that episode is they didn't lean enough into that.
No,
right?
they didn't.
You had
No,
you
yeah.
had Carlo setting Renee Montoya off on a goose chase for all of 15 seconds, right? Before she immediately figured out, oh, Basil's lying to me. I need to get, where's Carlo? Blah blah blah. And then you go and you see that he's been murdered, right? But anyone who knows anything about the character knows that he was the one running off on the fire escape. So it was clearly a setup to throw them off the trail. But it just
So I would add the fact that too is that I felt that the first two episodes didn't understand the pacing of the show yet.
no.
There was a lot of problems, because the buildup of what was going on with Clayface, the ending didn't land. It was like so generic 1950. Oh no, and
It was Scooby Doo.
it was very Scooby-Doo esque. But then when we got into episode 3 and beyond, the pacing was so much better.
And that's where I in my mind, I think that if this series had had more episodes, right, then we would have gotten something equivalent to, or we would have had a better chance of getting something equivalent to, Feet of Clay from the animated series, right? Like that was that Clayface, but that
Too many series are like 8-10 episodes. That's no time to breathe. That's no time to get your legs underneath you or to tell a good story. And not every time does Batman need to solve his crime. There have been times where the people he's been after in the comics got away only to come back and bother him at another point.
And Clayface would have been a perfect chance for that, right? Have more of the paranoia build up, right? Don't have Carlo get fake murdered until towards the end. And then you could have had that moment where Batman is, trying to figure out what's going on, and that's when he goes into the morgue, and that's whenever he presses in the face and realizes that the Carlo that died isn't, the true one, and that Clayface is somewhere out there in the wild, right? Like that would have been a cool, interesting way to leave it and move into the next episode, and that would have been fine. But they just I don't understand the way that they obsessed with this monster of the week and having to have everything neatly wrapped up
within the 22 minutes of the episode.
At least the first handful of episodes, right? Because Quinn has classic comic book death, right? So she's dead but coming back. But
and there were 3 episodes of the Harvey Dent of his downfall. There were 2 of basically of Harley Quinn's downfall. And that's half your series already. It would have been better if they'd have focused on Harvey Dent's story and then let all these other things be happening around that, where it's showing that Batman's got so many things on his plate, and it's causing him to make mistakes. Alfred's there to help him. We get the one thing I cannot stand is how he treats Alfred in this throughout the entire series until the Gentleman Ghost episode, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my God, Alfred almost died. What am I thinking?" And then he becomes human. No.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like early on, just how Batman just seemed to like treat Alfred way more like he was just an underpaid employee than a family member.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you might not have gotten to the episode. You might not have gotten to the episode, but there is a moment where Bruce is talking to Lucius Fox, and Fox makes him and Alfred are having a little back and forth camaraderie between the two. And at one point, Bruce makes a comment about how he's shocked at how well they're getting along together. And Lucius makes the comment, he's like, "Well, that's because I treat the help like family. You should probably try and do that too."
Yes.
And it's one of those things where as it was going along, I had to keep reminding myself that this is supposed to be like a year one type story. But I think the thing that they don't understand, and maybe whenever you're the creative mind of this kind of thing, you're too in it to really see, and you need someone on the outside to come in and explain to you what you're doing. But I mean, every iteration that I've ever had of Batman and Alfred is the father figure, right? That you always have that bond between them. And if you're going to do a show where you want to show that bond not being existent to start with, then you need to do some kind of setup to establish that for me. Otherwise, you get what we had, where the whole season just felt incongruous with the Batman Alfred dynamic that I've known literally my entire life. Yeah. And having no explanation, having no kind of just Bruce is an ass. And that felt so weird to have that going on.
I think it felt like they relied on, Bruce is trying to keep him at arm's length to keep him protected because he knows at some point he's going to go down. But no, Alfred was the person there who, when he was a child and had those nightmares over and over again, was the person who comforted him, hugged him, loved him, and nurtured him. And to not have that portrayed in the series is a travesty in my book.
But this version of Bruce isn't the one having the nightmares, right? He's the one who has the nightmares. Then we get that scene where he wakes up, stomps it into, the bedroom where Alfred is, and he's standing there as a menacing little child in the doorway going, "They're going to pay Alfred, and you're going to help. You're going to help me."
Yeah, you're going to help me. Yeah.
Really?
What?
No, yeah.
That's what they did.
That's what he did. And again, it was so weird and out of place and just didn't make sense. And so I get trying to do something different, but there are some things that you're going to break it, and there's no way for you to put it back together to make it make sense. And it's just going to be broken. What's up?
When you were watching it, did you hit your pause a lot to go, "What did I just see? What the hell is going on?" And then you have to ruminate for a little bit, like, what's going on here? Then you go back to watch it and you go, "Yeah, I guess that's where they were going with it."
Yeah.
I think the minute you do something like that, you lose your audience, and you're going to lose half your audience is going to go, I'm not sticking with this. There's other things
like Wubs, right? He got 2 episodes in and dipped, right? Like,
I mean it's really tough, right? Like, I talked a little bit on Vince's Discord about this. Like when you grew up with Batman the animated series as a kid, which I did, that just was always going to be the definitive version of the character and all the other characters for the most part too. So it's very hard to compare, like, anything else that was going to come after it was always going to be compared to that, especially if Bruce Timm did it. And it's very hard to watch just from that perspective. Like it's not even remotely in the same league.
Well, see, I grew up, Colin, probably because we're the oldest on here. My origins were from the comics. Maybe watching a few of the old black and white serials, which were nothing like Batman.
Nope.
But then the comics went from the serious, darker Batman to the more comical after the comics code and everything. And so it fit right into the 1960s Batman TV show. And then I, as a kid, because I was still a kid when that came out, and I would race to be able to watch that in front of the television.
Sure.
So for a long time, that was Batman. And I grew up reading the older Batman stuff, but then also reading the Batman family, like the Superman family, where they were just like,
Sure.
Each comic was a one and done. There was no continuity. There was, just wacky stuff. And they made Superman and Batman capable of doing anything and everything. And Robin was just, this little joke. But
Right.
I always wanted to be Robin. Everybody, they gave you a character in these stories so that you would be on the end. That you would. Because some of us wanted to be Superman or Batman, but we were really more like Jimmy Olsen and Robin.
Right.
And so, but
Well,
when I got older,
for me
I got
too.
into the comics, the older comics. I love the detective aspect of Batman. I like that more than I enjoyed him being a superhero, where he would get involved with the major villains. I liked him trying to solve crimes, but that's always been my mentality.
Well, that's what makes him different from all the other members of the Justice League. I really enjoy when the comics address and explore Batman as a detective, because I think his mind is a superpower. Really, when you've got all these other characters in the Justice League that are aliens and have crazy physical, mental abilities, Batman's just a human man. His superpower is his mind and a lot of money. I'll give you that. But, so those are always the most interesting stories to me too. And I wanted to ask you guys if you felt that this new series had really explored that well, because from my perspective, at least for the first two episodes, it sort of felt like there wasn't a ton of that going on. I mean, I know he did a little detective work for the Clayface story. The first one was just a gang war where it felt like Batman was almost an afterthought of the episode. It was mostly the Penguin versus Thorn, right?
Yeah. And honestly, the way you said it right there is the way a lot of this season feels, is that Batman is just kind of an afterthought. Because it feels like every episode, if I try and think back on it, 90% of it is just it's Catwoman's story, or it's Renee Montoya, and just kind of Batman pops in every now and then and kind of just says, "Hey guys, I'm still here. I know the show's named after me, so I need a little screen time, but I'll catch up with you in the Two-Face episode. Maybe we'll spend a little bit more time with me then." And then by the time you get there, it's still like, well, we're going to tell a little bit more of the Two-Face, and again, go back to the Renee Montoya stuff, but hey, here's Batman, and bye, Batman. We'll see you in a little while. And it was like he just kind of showed up for fight scenes, but
they kind of set that up.
I'm glad
they kind of set that up in the episode. They kind of set that up in the episode where Gordon is put into his position for just because they needed somebody in that position. They didn't expect him to do the job. Part of the people on his force are corrupt in the pockets of the two the gangs of the city. And Barbara's like, she's a prosecuting attorney, and so she's like, angry that her dad's treated that way. And I liked when Gordon goes, he decided not to be their pawn, and he's going to prove that he earns that role as commissioner, instead of being put in it by a corrupt city government. And so it does feel like the stories were about all the, what do you call them, the background characters,
all the side characters,
all the side characters, other than Bruce. I mean, even Bruce and Alfred's relationship wasn't explored, and what was explored was really bad, as we've talked about before. They really don't know what to do with Harvey Dent. He is all over the place. His character changes depending on the episode.
Well, spoiler, they don't really have to worry about him anymore, right?
Well, I mean, jeez. That was one thing about comics.
They kill him off.
Yeah, he got. I mean, I guess they could try and come back later and be like, well, technically we just said that, he got shot in the back, but the
Wait,
way
yeah,
I the
I
way I
think.
interpret it was he
Well,
bit the
he was pretty
dust.
much dead when he walks over and doesn't Batman pick up the coin?
Yes.
Goes over
All
and
that.
takes the coin out of his hand. I'm like, yeah, he's dead. And the
Yeah.
little highlight of the pool of blood laying on the ground, and I was like, nobody went, get this man, get an ambulance in here and let's
Yeah.
resuscitate him.
Yeah,
No,
they
he
can.
was dead.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
almost feel like
and
towards.
what's interesting? Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it just felt like at the end they knew they weren't getting a second season, and they were just
Burn
like,
it to the
let's just
ground.
wrap it and burn it all to the ground. Yeah.
Really? It was that bad at the end? Like it really. I mean, I thought it started bad. I'm. That's incredible because all the articles I read about it, they were all like, "Oh, look how smart we are. We're gender swapping and making people fat and doing all these things, right? Like for the to modernize. Like they were talking it up like it was the best thing ever in the
Well, they
articles I was reading. And
only gender
you're
swapped
making
one
it sound
person.
like they knew this was gonna fail. Right?
No, it felt like at one point in it, oh, it's got some breathing room. It's on a nice roll here. And then killing off
Mm.
Two-Face at the end, wrapping everything up in a nice little bow at the end. They didn't leave anything to carry into a new series. We didn't even get to see
Okay.
Batman come around and go to Alfred and say, hey, thank you, and hug him. Or we didn't get to
Well,
see.
you didn't get the hug, but you had him, pause
Oh,
as he was
when
about to
when
as he
he's
was about
laying
to
there on the
call.
ground because he thought he was dead. Is
No,
that
no,
the
no, no,
part
no,
you're
no, no, no,
talking
no, no,
about?
no, no. Very, very last episode. I want to say it's the very last scene. Batman's about to get in the Batmobile, and he's about to refer to Alfred as Pennyworth because that's what he was calling him the
Again,
entire
yeah, yeah.
series. And he stops himself midway, and he goes, "Alfred, it's
Alfred, yeah.
Alfred."
Yeah, I
Right. So,
remember that
so
part.
you at least had that moment right at the very end where it's like, oh, okay, now we're trying to set up the relationship that we've been expecting this whole season.
Mhm.
But it's like it's too little, too late almost
Too late.
by that point. It's like you've already set up this weird
Right.
dynamic, and now because Bruce had this moment where a friend of his died in front of him, now he cares about Alfred, but like nothing about I don't know anything about this Bruce or this version of Batman other than he's super revenge hungry, and then watching Two-Face die, that's what turns him. Even though the whole series, I didn't really get a good feel for him and Dent's relationship. Like, yeah,
No,
he took
not-
Dent out to eat
Not
after he got an acid splashed in his face, but that was it. And that one scene isn't enough
Well,
to really
remember,
build that.
he was funding things that Harvey was doing. He was going to events, got like the one with the vampire girl.
Yeah,
who was
but
eating
then why wasn't
but they didn't.
but why
They
wasn't
didn't, it
he
was
helping to
superficial.
bankroll Dent, right? Why
No, I know
wasn't wasn't Bruce doing that instead of Thorne?
Oh, I don't know because Bruce didn't know about their connection. He kept that. See, the one
Right,
thing,
but
the best
why?
version of Two-Face was what Bruce Timm did when he created the one for the Batman.
I mean, after watching this show, I question more and more how much of it was Tim and how much of it
Tim
was Dini and Paul,
Paul
right?
Dini.
Paul Dini.
Paul Dini.
Yeah, Paul Dini.
Yeah, Paul Dini had to go a long way because he was writing the comics. But that version of Two-Face I really liked because he was a conflicted person who was all about justice and all about the law, and that was his career. But everything around him corrupted, and that's what the whole what's the comic book series, The Long Halloween, was about, the corruption of Harvey Dent and his downfall.
the Jeff Loeb
But
series.
they did not accomplish that in this because Harvey was already a corrupt, conniving Donald Trump type character. He's the only person I could think of. Say anything, do anything for power.
Well, there wasn't enough time on the screen with the character. I mean, to actually have him all you saw was his faults.
Right.
Yeah, all you saw was his faults.
Yeah, I have a comment on that because as I was watching the first few episodes, I was watching Harvey interact with Barbara and like the other characters and stuff. they tried to make Harvey pretty much like this just very unlikable, very full of himself, arrogant, alpha male type guy. Like that was obviously like what they were trying to do. They were trying to make him quote the toxic masculine, which I hate those terms, but that you know what I mean, because we get to them thrown in our face every single day these days. And I just think it's funny because what did they do to counter it? They made Barbara Gordon basically just as bad in the opposite way. Like they made her super masculine, super angry, super crusty, no redeeming qualities at all as far as I could tell, as compared to her character in the original comics and the animated series. It's one of my favorite characters in all comics, by the way.
It was almost like they gave Barbara Dent's sense of justice.
Dent's good justice,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was
so
say.
so Barbara was like the positive side that Dent should have had, and yeah, Dent was just once you get to not the last episode, but the one before that, after he gets the acid splashed in his face, they tried this weird almost redemption arc where Dent was actually, trying to do good by the city, and he was actually fighting the currently sitting corrupt officials, and he was going to be this change. It's like, but we got no indication.
Well, you had
to
let us know that, though, right? Yeah, that's the thing. If you want that to be the thing, you have to make that clear to the audience. If you want us to care about a character like that, I mean, then they did it perfectly in The Dark Knight, right? That's his character in The Dark Knight, just like Floyd said about Long Halloween, the comic. He is the, Gotham's White Knight who's coming in to clean up the corruption in the city government. And that's why he's a target, and ultimately, gets his life ruined because he tries to be a force for positive change. And Batman gets to do it all from the darkness, and that's why he resents Batman, because he didn't lose the same thing that Harvey did.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was doing it out in the open, where Batman got to hide in the shadows and didn't have to play by the rules. Dent did, and Dent had anger issues. I understand he had anger issues. That played up almost in the comics too, but it was due to his frustration and how the system was rigged. And now in this,
but he was fundamentally a good man. That's the thing, though, right? He was fundamentally a good man. Who was trying to do good things.
And
that's who Harvey Dent was.
Yeah, and they play upon that for a second in the series.
Yeah.
When they're going to go after Gordon, and Barbara's talking to him. Remember, he goes, "I'll flip a coin, and if it comes up heads, I won't go to the whatever it was what he was going to do that would have brought down Gordon." And he flips it, and it's heads, and she goes, "Thank you," and kisses him and walks off because she's going to go do something. And then you see him flipping it, and it's a two-headed coin. So he knew when he flipped it that he was giving this break for her, and that he was protecting her dad. So that kind of gave you a hint, but it was not enough to show that.
Because it becomes one of the things where it's like, oh wait, there's the coin. It's not this is to show that he's doing it for the right reasons. It's a
I mean, like what we were establishing earlier, right? He was the alpha male type character, so he was doing that just to get on Barbara's good side because he wanted to get a piece of Barbara, right? That was
no, and that's played up in this too because he hits on her all the time in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was rough, right? Yeah, there's a lot to pick at.
I think we've gone to this place, and one of the things I always hated with modern comics and trying to get my comic out was people said, "Show, don't tell." That images will speak 1,000 words. Images only speak what you've already got in your head. Everybody perceives an image differently, right? So if you're just relying on a picture to tell what's going on, it depends on who that person is who's perceiving that image and how they're going to perceive it as to how they follow along. So you have to have a little bit of talking. You have to have a little bit of describing what's going on in somebody's head, show their emotional attachments, show the kind of person they are. Now if you've got a two-dimensional villain who just is a killer, all you got to do is show him killing innocent people. And that tells you everything you know about this person. But if you want to make a sympathetic character, you want a person who is walking that line and could teeter either way, you have to go into more depth on that. And that's where they fail certain characters. You know, they gave Selena Kyle really no redeeming value other than that she was sexy, and and then I think she helped somebody out in the end. I don't remember with some of the money, but
no, her maid stole all the last.
oh,
All the
her
money,
maid
yeah.
stole all the money. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And
Yeah,
so
no,
they
she
there
was
was
just
there was nothing sympathetic about her. None of them really,
yeah. This was the worst.
except for
That
Lucius.
was my issue with the female characters. I felt like watching them, at least in the first two episodes, I was like, there's nothing redeeming about any of these characters. Like they've just thrown away anything that was positive about Barbara and Montoya, as far as I could tell, and just made them into these super masculine, modern female characters that I was watching it and just thinking, like, why would anyone like this? Why would you want to see these strong characters like taken down to this level? Like, I didn't get it.
I thought Montoya had a good story arc.
Well,
Other than the
Especially
fact that
She was okay. She was certainly better, right? I'll give you that. But just
she's
from the
eating good.
setup of the characters.
But
But I
Yeah,
think
that's the other thing. Everybody's been eating good on this show, or at least
Good
a lot
everybody.
of them have.
Well,
Right?
the women were thick back then,
I know, but there's thick, and then there's like good.
Okay,
I mean,
yeah.
she's built like
You're
a linebacker.
you're
I mean,
gonna
she-
make
she
you're gonna
could
make large women mad at us.
Well, no, I mean, I not even necessarily fat. Like, I bet she could wrestle Bullock. I'm pretty sure she could
Oh,
take
yeah.
him
I
down
don't
on
know.
this show.
Bullock was built
Right.
like a crane. I mean,
Bullock
was built.
Bullock has also been eating a little extra well in this
he hadn't
show.
missed
but
any meals at all.
And so
No.
I'm glad they
Well,
returned
Bullock
to
I
a
was
bad
okay with,
guy.
right? Bullock was big in the original series,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's like, yeah, of course, he's the donut eating cop. He's the stereotype. I get it. Yeah,
But,
it's wrong.
but he was
It would have been
also
weird. See, I'd be complaining if Bullock had been thin. That's the thing. I'd be saying, like, why'd you turn Bullock into an anorexic? What's up with that? Like, you didn't need to do that. We like a big.
And
I mean,
that's
we need
where
that because we need that representation is what we need.
that's that counterbalance though. There
Right.
was a lot of people like Alfred was like he didn't miss
Yeah,
it
see,
right?
not
at all.
Alfred. Why did Alfred have?
I was like, there's
See,
no reason for that. I mean, it's like if you're gonna go to these extremes for these characters, then why not make Bullock thinner,
So-
taller guy instead of
I mean,
Right.
the argument for Alfred, right, is the argument for some of this other stuff, which is, well, if you go back to the comics from such and such era, Alfred was fat, right? Like, we do have comics where Alfred is a little on the husky side, right? Like, he's so that's
bigger.
somewhat
I'll have to
the
go.
older
I'll
one,
have to
right?
go. I'll have to go back and look how far that is because maybe in the
distance.
early comics he might have been your typical, Mr. French, a little overweight, but
yeah.
through the majority of his life he has been thin. We didn't know for a long time. He was written as if you do the kind of work Alfred did, taking care of that mansion by yourself, ain't no way. Run it, just walking back and forth to clean everything.
Oh yeah.
You would
You're
not
putting
do
in
that,
them steps.
Yeah, and walk. We don't know how many
Yep.
steps are from the
from
mansion
top-
to the Batcave, and it's like
Batcave, yeah.
and in
There was
the
no-
animated series, he was like always
Yeah.
walking down the steps with a tray of food and drinks for
Well,
groups.
remember, originally there was no elevator in that
Yeah.
thing. There was
Look.
nothing but carved steps.
Maybe though,
And this
maybe
is
what we
supposed
never.
to be the 30s,
Yeah.
so it's
Well,
the
hold-
original time, right?
Well, hold on, because look, there is a little bit of precedent, right? So we had what's his name, the man in the White Castle, the serial killer. His weird house that he had built for himself had a bunch of chutes where he would like drop people into vats of acid and stuff like that. So
Did you see
so
Alfred
Alfred
sliding
so
down
hold
with
on.
a tray of coffee?
Yes. No, that's what I'm saying is what we didn't get to see was that
H.H.
Alfred actually has like heightened like his dexterity stat, right?
Oh,
he
he's
maxed
got
it out.
a superpower.
Right, yeah, his superpower is actual super dexterity. So he just greased himself up,
Right.
went down these chutes holding like all that food and stuff, and he just was able to hold it all in place, like Spider-Man catching all the food that Mary Jane dropped in the cafeteria, right? Lands down at the bottom, comes out and walks over, like waddles over to Bruce, and he's good.
Mhm.
Yeah, man.
Mass.
But he still has to go back up the steps though.
No, no,
And
no,
then,
no,
yeah,
no.
and then-
Pneumatic. No, no,
Tracer-
no, no, no. Hold
and
on,
then
hold
he
on, hold on. We've
whistles,
got-
and the bats fly down,
No, no, no,
grab
no,
a
no,
suit,
no.
and carry him back up the stairs.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
He
Mary
jumps. He
Poppins.
jumps. No, no.
Or-
He jumps into the chocolate river, and pneumatic tube pulls him back up.
But did you notice that Alfred, they made Alfred look like Penguin,
Yes.
except for the
I
long
did. I
nose?
was about to say that, Floyd. I was about to say that because I was like, why is the penguin in the Batcave at the beginning? Like that's what I was. Like it hit me. I was like, what's going on?
For years, even in the comics, they kept it hidden that there was something about Alfred's past. You know, at one point it was his brother was military, then it was him who was in the military,
Yes,
and
yeah.
so
Yeah.
he would never let himself go. You know,
Yeah.
the biggest thing, Alfred's superpower is that he remained the same age for like 100 years. that's a major superpower.
What Batman didn't realize was that he was meeting up with Roz and he was getting into that.
He was getting into the
Right.
Getting dunked in the Lazarus pit.
Wait.
Yeah.
Lazarus pit.
You know, in Earth One, Alfred was wasn't he like ex-SAS or something? He was like
yes.
like
He
really
was like
tough.
James Bond, like he's part of like the Secret Service.
Yeah.
Now,
he was
the other thing,
training Batman, right? In Earth One, I think.
at one point, yes.
Yeah.
And he did. Even in the past, he boxed. He was a boxer, and so he did box with Bruce. But Bruce went around, even trained with what was his name?
Richard Dragon.
Yeah, and then the Panther dude.
Black
The
not
Black, no, not
not
the
Black
wrong.
Panther,
Don't sue us, MCU. But what was his name? The
Wildcat.
Oh, Wildcat.
Wildcat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wildcat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then if you go back and you read comics far enough, Batman Bruce wore the Robin outfit first. When he was training with one of the greatest detectives, he was his sidekick, and he gave him the outfit to wear. And that's why he had that when he gave it to Dick. That's in the Batman Untold Legends of both Superman and Batman, which I still have. But it was
Batman
interesting
is
that
not a world traveler, though.
No, he
like-
doesn't feel like it. No.
He
This guy was like he did everything on his
boxer and
own.
a wrestler.
Yeah.
I don't even see him being a like to take the man or have Robin as his sidekick at all. I don't think he
No, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of a past version of the Batman from Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh, yeah.
Batman that had nobody in his life, and he was all about the vengeance and all about that everything.
Mhm.
And so I wonder how much that played into that series, because we know there were several movies and several things that were missing because they killed it and said, look, we're done. They're not making any more movies. This is it. Finish it. And so, but the one thing I thought was interesting is the only two people in the series who had any redeeming value were Lucius Fox and Alfred. The only two people that you liked right off the bat, and you knew who they were, and they were mentors. But the fact that they were mentoring to people who didn't listen, they were everybody who thought they knew better. You know, and that's a statement on society today. We don't listen to older people. We don't listen to what they've been to, their experiences. We've all got to learn everything the hard way, and you don't have to. And I was going to say one other thing about the cartoon, but
that's why we love having you on the call, Floyd.
Oh,
we love having you here.
Don't smooze me, Wubs.
Well, like
you've got all this experience. I mean, look, you just told us about the 30s and Batman's origins and all that stuff because you got all that experience. I haven't read all those comics.
Back when you came up with thing.
Man, I mean, I can remember
not a lot.
We didn't have comic shops back in the day. We had
we had to write our own comics.
No, we did that in school.
I had to drive up to New York City and go into those the places that made.
See, you guys wouldn't even know how to.
I walked up to Stan Lee. I walked up to Stan Lee and he was standing on the corner hawking his wares on it, Captain America.
You guys wouldn't even know how to go find a comic back when me and Colin were growing up.
Yeah, no,
You know,
wait, you had that. So
go to newsstands, convenience stores, which not all of them carried the same. So you
They
had
had-
when you wanted to go find a comic, you had to go make a run of like 4 or 5 stores to see which one
See,
still had
this is
something.
the-
on
this
you
the
had to grab the
newsstand.
right magazine
Oh,
and the
I
right
thought it.
dates. Use the
I
decoder ring that you got in the Cracker Jack box, and the decoder
Yeah.
ring would tell you what address you need to go to at what time.
Yeah, it was
And there
geotagging
you'd
before
find
geotagging.
a man in a yellow trench coat, and he would sell you the comics.
He's
No,
like,
no respect for the
You had
elderly.
to.
That's
You
what
had
this
to be
is.
Batman. You had
That's
to be
right.
Batman to find your
yeah,
comics,
You
right?
have to be
Yeah.
Batman to buy Batman.
Oh,
Great
and then
Yeah.
they would pull them. They would pull the comics at a certain time and ship them back, and then put up new ones. Right. So if you missed an issue, you were running around, and you'd have to make a deal with people in the store. You know, work for them, do something, pay for it, and say, "Hey, look, before you pull it, I don't have the money right now. I'll come in and I'll gather up all the cards." But you
light
save
bulb.
that.
Light bulb just popped in my head. That's why it was called Detective Comics.
Oh
Right.
yeah. And so you did things. It wasn't like easy. So when you had a comic, you cherished it. You read the crap out of it. Most of the time, the cover
Oh,
would
yeah.
fall off. And so when comic stores started coming around, that was it. And you would go in and sit down and go through their back stock. And sometimes if they were cool, they'd let you open it and read through it. As long as you didn't mess with it, you break it, you bought it.
Right.
And if not, you would, hey, look, I want this. I'll pay on it. Oh yeah, you come in and make payments every week with your allowance, and when you pay it, it's yours. You know, it was a total different world than it is today, and people just don't appreciate that anymore.
Wow.
Fair enough.
And
Now
that's
we
why-
have everything at our hands.
and that's why the Cape Crusader sucks.
Yeah.
Guys. It's not the
Well,
same.
and that's why we have that's why we have a Batman who ends up like this.
No,
'Cause
we
nobody
have a
knows the
Batman that
history
looks
of it.
like this because he couldn't fix his cow. Alfred couldn't dry clean it to make it, be like this. It was
That's
Oh,
how
so
they
you-
were in the original serials.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's what it is. That's what he's making fun of, is the original
Yeah.
serials.
Alfred couldn't make it to the dry cleaners because it couldn't fit into the car.
Well, they didn't have a greased up chute that went all the way out to the dry cleaners. That was the unfortunate side of it.
Here's my pet peeve. With this newer generation, they don't seem to understand the fact that Superman is invulnerable. So what are they going to do? They're going to put him in armor. He could fly around in his underwear and nothing else and still be Superman. But you're going to have to go design him because you think it's cool. You're going to put armor plating on him.
Yeah.
That's kind of redundant, isn't it? It's kind of stupid.
So
It's like
unless he's
when
fighting like an army of raised Kryptonians or something, like with bits of kryptonite in them. Like, that's ridiculous.
maybe it's lead lined. That helps him.
Lead plates. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Well, then he can't go
I
around
can
and hang
see
out.
it for that.
Then
But what else? Why else would he wear armor?
Then he kills
But
everybody
then-
he goes by because we're all.
Well, no, he would definitely kill
poisonous.
He would kill Mon-El from just the Legion of Superheroes because
yes.
his weakness was lead. Hey, bud, we're gonna be dead. Oh shit, he just died. I killed him.
That's what happened to the Jacksonites. Crap.
No, and it's just like what they do with they've
Superman
done it with
hugged me and I
everybody.
died.
With everyone. I mean, Aquaman, right? This is a guy who can go to the deepest parts of the ocean. The pressure per square inch on him makes him tough as Superman. Yet what are we going to do? We're going to put him in armor. And then yet we're going to have Wonder Woman running around with a little bitty skirt and a little chest plate and some arm bracelets.
Well, at least they got that last part right. I mean, we got to give them some credit for that, right?
Excuse me. There's nothing wrong with a skirt on a superhero. Come on.
No.
Well, it's Wonder Woman. Like, again, she's essentially invulnerable. Like, it actually makes sense.
Yeah, I think some things are done just because somebody thinks, "Oh, it's going to look cool," without even trying to reason why.
Oh, yeah.
No. It's a very short line of reason, and you just said it looks cool.
Yeah.
Boom, you're there. Good, you're done.
Big titties.
Well, and that's so much of what sells comics, right? Is what you make a cool cover image and it sells a comic. You know.
That's right. Yeah, man.
Yeah, well,
You got-
here's the
you
way
gotta
I
catch the
did.
eye and draw them in.
When I ran the comic shops, the way I felt, the cover is what attracted you. What's in is what kept you buying the series. You know,
Oh, definitely.
and then whenever we had like Image and all these other ones come out in the shop, and everybody was buying them because of the covers, alternate covers, the adult covers, and all this stuff, and because they were, before they even made it to the store, they had gone from cover price to $25 an issue. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
Where? What drove this? And it was just speculators, you know, because later on those books were worthless.
Hey,
You know,
hey,
Mhm.
my special edition swimsuit cover of Gen 13 number 4 is going to be worth something one day.
yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah. Mine will too,
hey,
but
you know,
you got to not look at the stains on the pages.
for all the things we say wrong about Rob Liefeld and how he can't draw, ankles or anything.
Hey, at least they made a comment about that in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Deadpool
Yeah.
movie, because I told Rob Liefeld that to his face, and he didn't like me very much for that.
And
I
then
was
the
like,
whole,
man.
the whole bus stood up and clapped.
No, we were at a
Right.
convention. I was showing off
Just
the
giving
first
crap, man.
pages. We were at a convention
do?
here in Houston, and I had first panels when we were first trying to do the book. And I had a friend of mine, Tommy, doing them, and I was showing them around to different comic people and telling, and had images of the little synopsis of the story and saying, look, we're working on this. What do you think works? What can you give me some advice? Fucking Rob Liefeld tells me you need to go back to school and get some anatomy lessons and learn how the bone structure works.
Oh.
And I looked at him and I was like, ankles? And then I stormed off. And what's his name? The guy who wrote Jurgensen, who wrote The Death of Superman, was sitting right next, and he cracks up laughing. And I walk over, and Mark and him are like, well, what's going on? I said, fucking Liefeld. And I said it now, fucking Liefeld. You know, telling me about anatomy. Come on, Captain
Yeah,
America.
that is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I was about to say, why
Yeah.
don't you talk about Captain America's chest and how
You
that
know,
ankle
and-
Oh
works?
yeah.
And then I still had a reason to hate him, because later on we were at Comic Palooza, another convention, and he was walked over and he looked at our stuff, and he was around the corner from us. I mean, directly to my left. And he was like, hey, this looks pretty interesting. We talked about it, and we're like, hey, man, would you come over and take a promo shot with us at the con? I said, sure. He comes over, takes a picture of us. He goes, I'm going to share this with people. I'll let them know about your book. You know, by the end of we saw it. Mark looked it up. By the end of the con, Mark comes over and he goes, you know what fucking Liefeld did? And I go, no, what? He goes, he removed everything he posted about us. I was
Wow.
like, what a
Revenge.
piece
That's what it
of
was. He remembered you from all that time ago.
You
and got your
remember you
hopes
said
up.
ankle.
Yeah, that's right. He built you up
Yeah.
thinking that he was going
So-
to do something.
I was
for
mad. I
you.
was mad. You don't know me, because back then I used to. I
You don't know me. You don't know my family.
No,
We'll
I
raise
was.
this church to the ground.
I'm gonna break your
No.
ankles so you know how to draw them as a heel.
Hey, let me show you your ankle, motherfucker.
I'm gonna break your ankles so they
Yeah,
heal back the way you draw them.
I realized that, like,
Oh,
because I got that the Deadpool figure that I posted, and it's like he has
Hmm.
pockets like these on his ankles, so it's like he drew those
Yeah.
so he couldn't have to draw ankles.
Well,
It's like-
and I mean, look, ankle pockets can hold all kinds of neat little things. You can hide like Cheez-Its and things in there for whenever you're hungry
Yeah.
on the go.
Well,
yeah,
You're,
yeah.
ty-
Where
you're
do you
tying,
think-
you're
where do you
tying your
think he-
non-existent shoelaces, and you just need to grab
Chimichangas.
yourself a snack.
Where
There
do you
yeah.
think he kept his lube, man? You know.
That's right. Yeah.
right.
Colin,
Coke. Cocaine.
man. Tons of cocaine.
you don't want to add
Nose
anything
candy.
on that one?
No.
Build a snowman.
No. He was chewing the gum with that in it while he was reading the
Making-
comics
he
in
was-
the 30s.
He was making snow angels in his bedroom, pretending to be what was his name? Montoya. What was his name from Scarface?
Oh my God. Why are you Tony
Montoya
Montana.
in his bed.
No, not Montoya, Montana. Tony
Montana.
Montana.
In the
Okay,
bedroom,
yeah.
making snow angels, going, "Say hello to my little friend." You know
I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer's around, so yeah, that would work. That'd be okay.
what? Yeah. Was she his sister? No.
No.
There was another movie.
No,
There was
she was
another
the
movie.
girlfriend.
No.
Oh,
She was
that
Frank's
was
girlfriend that he
That
stole.
would have,
yeah, that he stole. Yeah, that's right.
that'd be a very different
I
movie.
was
Very
thinking
different movie.
Gladiator.
Michelle Pfeiffer wasn't in Gladiator.
No, the sister angle was in
Oh,
Gladiator.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
that's that. When in Rome,
You gotta
goes
keep,
Roman
you gotta
Caesar.
keep
Yeah.
it low. You gotta keep it pure blood.
That's right. Yeah, gotta keep it in the family.
Yeah, way before Game
can't-
of Thrones. So anyway, what else are we watching right now since we're done with the Batman talk?
Everything. I mean, I've just been watching Asian, Korean, horror, action, I mean, all kinds of stuff. Anything I can find because it's great stuff. I think they're doing better films than we are doing now.
Well, what are you watching them on, Floyd?
Freebie, Tubi, a couple of the other free channels because they're in English dubbed. You can't get them on a regular channel dub, because you try to go to a pay
Netflix.
channel like Netflix and stuff. They're going to put it in its original language. They edit out. Amazon does it. Max does it. You can't even watch Godzilla now in the dub versions from America. It's all the original release language. So yeah, there's still some dubs you can find them, and sometimes they'll have like a string of them dubbed, and I just start at the first one and just keep going till I get tired of it. Their horror stuff is just like out there, man.
It's been good for a while now.
Yeah.
Finally watched the first Sartana movie.
Oh yeah, how'd you find that with the about dozen double crosses in the first 10 minutes?
Oh, it's glorious. The whole thing is just absolutely glorious.
Which one?
Sartana. No, what is it? It's
every single title for those movies is like an isekai anime. It's about a mile long.
Yeah, it's like
nice.
Prepare a coffin because Sartana or something like that.
Oh,
if you meet Sartanya, pray for your death. I am Sartanya, your angel of death. Sartanya's here. Trade your pistol for a coffin. Have a good funeral, my friend. Sartanya will pay and light the fuse. Sartanya is coming.
Yes.
There you go.
They just.
And then I watched something that was really good. It was called Forager's Reign or Searcher's Reign. I can't remember. Maybe 10 episodes, and it's about a ship that crash lands on a planet where everything is toxic to humans, and they're all in the pods all over the planet, and they're all trying to get together to get back to the ship that they're able to bring down through communications with it, and it lands, and it's them all trying to get there, and then all the people who responded to their distress signals show up, and they're in it just for themselves to get the salvage, and then everything in the planet will kill you. I mean, everything. So you don't get tied to any one character. I mean, at one point at halfway through, there were only 2 people left of the original kid crew that we watched to this point. They introduced a whole new crew of scavengers that show up. And then out of the blue, they introduce another 2 characters that were part of the escape pod ship and they kind of, at the end, it's this big battle for the thing. And what's important is if any of the spores on the planet get off, whatever planet they hit, they will turn into what it is. So you're not even sure if this planet was originally that way or not. And the center story is about how that there was a maintenance security robot that was helping out one of the survivors, and because it touched something, some of the fungus started to grow in it, and it started forming a brain within the system. So it becomes sentient, it has feelings, but then it's able to actually talk to the planet, and you find out that the planet is one living organism. And so, man, it was just wow. It was so friggin' deep. And by the end of it, I was like, man, I'm exhausted because your mind is just constantly, and it's graphic, not sexually graphic. It's some of the death scenes are just, they don't hold back anything. And that was, I believe that I watched that on Amazon or I watched it on Netflix. I can't remember. And then I
What was
just
it called again?
finished. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Sounds really good.
One of the ones I watched and we were talking about
Scavenger's
mentioning Dad,
Reign.
was the Mars Express. The anime.
Yes, that
Oh,
was
yeah,
another
yeah.
one. Yeah, that was good.
That was really
Okay,
good.
it's called Scavenger's Reign, like in
Okay.
REIGN.
Okay. Nice.
Oh
Yeah, I'll
I think
check that
that's
out.
on
It's
Max
on.
or
It was.
something.
It was on Netflix.
Oh, Netflix. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Mars Express, really good, like detective film, very much in the vein of like Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell. Um, really pretty good in animation. It was really nice. But it was really cool the whole concept of like these androids that are just going rogue, and then you find out why. And then there's also the introduction of organic, artificial creatures and stuff too. So, but yeah, it's really good.
hmm
Had a
Yeah,
really
the humans are creating the organics to replace
the androids, yeah.
the androids. What was, like I told you, it reminded me of the origins of Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah, like
Cylons. It
the
was straight up that story.
mhm.
Um,
And then I finally got a chance to watch Furiosa, and that was really good. I still think the dude that like his her partner in that movie needs to play Solid Snake in the Metal Gear movie.
Metal Gear movie. Yeah, I read up on that stuff after you were talking about it. You know that even the guy who
Oh yeah,
created
Kojima wants
Kojima,
him.
he wants it, but the film's been in limbo for 2 years now.
Yeah, and
Um,
what is it? Oh come on, Oscar Isaac is supposed to play Snake, but like,
well, he's not anymore. He was going to direct and play Snake. He's now moved on to other things,
mhm.
and so they were going around trying to find a new director. There was another director associated with it, somebody I didn't know, and then there was one interview where they're talking to him, and he talked about who he would pick to play the characters, and that's when where I saw him say the same thing about the guy. He actually says the guy's name from Furiosa,
Yeah.
and but what I don't understand is it was a good movie. I really liked it,
Oh yeah, it
and
was
yet
good.
it made no money. So it's another one of those films that was really good, but is considered a flop because it didn't meet studio expectations for how much money it made. It made money, it just wasn't a hit,
Yeah, because
and
like
that's kind of
everybody I
sad.
knew that went and saw it enjoyed it. And then, but this sucks
Hmm.
because this was supposed to be a trilogy, and
Yeah, good luck on
this
that because I
third
think the
film's not going to
studios
happen.
pulled out on the third one. Yeah,
But what was it? I'm sorry, but Neil Blomkamp needs to be the director for Metal Gear. He's the only one I can see doing it justice and getting the
all
right.
he's got to do is that movie he made, which is nothing but all the little vignettes
Mhm.
of the different ones that was on
Like short
cable
films
for
and
a
stuff.
while,
Yeah.
short films. He just walk in and go, look, here's my resume. Because there are even stuff in that looks like Metal Gear. Some of the fight scenes remind me of Metal Gear, the big robotic machines and the soldiers. And I was just like, yeah. Just like I thought he was the perfect person to do
Aliens
Alien
5.
5.
Alien
Yep,
5. Yeah.
Alien 5.
Which would have retconned all the nonsense that we got after 2.
I learned from a lesson
So,
from that. Go ahead.
Furiosa though, that you said everybody liked it. It wasn't, because I thought I had heard that it was like, I thought I'd heard people say they didn't like it. So I guess
Everybody,
was that just
everybody
a
was
minority?
no, everybody was saying they didn't like it because it's not a Mad Max film, and they wanted to know where was Max in this film.
Uh,
And
oh, I
because
see.
it was, really, if it had been shown in order, I think if it had come out before the
Fury Road.
Fury Road,
Fury Road.
it would have been liked, and then more liked with that one, and then there'll be some expectation. Remember when Mad Max the original came out, it wasn't a big hit. It became a cult hit, but I went and saw it at the drive-in, and we were there a lot of times by ourselves, a couple of cars.
Yeah, but we've talked about that
and
before about how the secondary market helped lift a lot of obscure films up and got them legs post launch, right? And the marketplace just doesn't really hold up that, at least for big studio type of stuff, right? If you've got indie films and you're all if not self-funded, then you're at least able to get on with some of these smaller publishers and get yourself out there enough, right? Then you can do that kind of stuff. But George Miller going out and spending lots of money to do all those beautiful effects, if that movie doesn't make bank, then those beautiful effects are going to go by the wayside, unfortunately.
Well, and it wasn't one of the things where it was like everyone was talking about. Anybody that I knew that had saw the film enjoyed it. That's what
I mean. You could line and see there were a lot of people who either liked it or it was one or the other. They either liked it or they hated it. A lot of reviews, a lot of people who do this kind of stuff like we're doing talked about it. The thing is, point I was making before is that when Road Warrior came out, it was a financial hit, but it was not called Mad Max Road Warrior. They distanced themselves away from Mad Max. It was released to theaters as Road Warrior. It was only later, after it became a hit, and then they were working on the sequel, which eventually became on Thunderdome, that when it was re-released, they called it Mad Max Fury Road. Look it up. I used to still own that. I mean not Fury Road, Road Warrior.
Road Warrior. Okay.
Yeah, because I still own, I think I still own one of the covers that does not say Mad Max on it. It's just Road Warrior. It's because they distanced themselves from that. And just like Blade did not mention Marvel originally. When that first came out at the theaters, they did not want that to be associated with a comic book movie. It did not say Marvel. It did not have anything, maybe in the ending credits with an association with Marvel Comics, but that was not anywhere in the original release of that film, only after it became a hit. And that happens a lot with films, that only after the sequel makes money, then they want to go back and associate with where its origin started from.
That's cool. As a person who I've only seen Fury Road, I haven't seen any of the original Mad Max films. Do you think I would enjoy it then, Vince?
Oh yeah. I mean,
because I love Fury Road. Fury Road is one of my favorite action movies of all time. Like if we did an action movie episode, it would be definitely one of my top 5 picks.
I mean, just make sure to scale back expectations, right? Because you're not going to be getting great big, giant, flashy
dude on a
freaking
truck with a guitar with flames coming out. It's
right.
It's a different mentality. But I mean, you got you're going to have great character actors that you know now, but they were really unknown back then. I mean, even when they did Road Warrior, they redubbed Mel Gibson's voice.
Well, the one I saw, Road Warrior had his voice. They dubbed his voice on Mad Max.
The American,
yeah. They said it was no, we're not. But then he did something called Triple E or something like that, which was a World War II movie with about the Aussie Army, fighting in World War II. And he did all of his own language. All of a sudden, they were like, "Okay, he's okay. He sounds fine." I love Furiosa because it tells you what happens between Mad Max and Road Warrior, because they leave a lot of that. Because when you're watching Mad Max, there's still farms, there's green, there's police stations. It's it's still a society in decline, but it's still thriving. Or you wouldn't have all these souped up cars and stuff like that. You see a guy hauling vegetables down a road at one point. But you can tell that society on the fringe. You've got the gangs starting to take over. But to go from there to Road Warrior, which was the next film in the cycle, and the world's just collapsed completely. And then at the end of that, you see that there's, you know, well, it's in end of Thunderdome, but you see that all the cities are nuked. But that they're all trying to get towards this one place that they think is going to be, you know, in these kind of movies, there's always some place that is just over there that if we can get to it, it's going to be perfect. And
Yeah,
at
the
the same
promised
time,
land.
the people, yeah, the promised land, those people that are over there in the promised land are going, it's just if we can get over there where the people that are coming towards it, that's the new promised land.
Right.
That was the whole thing there. And
You know, I never thought
I
about.
enjoyed seeing that transition because you really get to see it happen.
So I never put this together, but you describing it the way that you did just now made me realize that Mad Max has to take place in the same world as Avatar, because Mad Max, the original one, had cabbage merchants, right? And so that was a very integral part of the story. And then once all the cabbage merchants went away, then the world went to hell in handbasket, right? So the Fire Nation must have learned their lesson and gone through and taken out all of those merchants, and that's what finally allowed them to take over and ruin the world. I'm glad we put this together,
and that's why cabbage is so prominent in Avatar, because at least the brother loves cabbage, doesn't he?
So Aang is at what point is he an
no, that's way in the past, right? That's way in the past, right? So the Last Airbender is like the far past. Korra, we're kind of getting there, and then, you know, by the time we get to modern day, like, benders aren't so much of a thing anymore because of technology and everything, and then it's when we have all the cars. But the one holdover that came across that no one really understands is that, like, cabbage, that is a form of bending. They just never really explain it in the show. So cabbage merchants were the last benders from the ye old times carrying on the traditions, and then they're finally taken out by the descendants of the Fire Nation. But because they can't bend fire anymore, they have to use nuclear weapons, and so that's where Mad Max comes from.
Wow, that was
that's
was
a stretch.
That was a logical leap, man.
I like to think that, like, the universe of, you know, Mad Max takes place in, you know, the Fist of the North Star universe. It's a little bit more believable. You know,
yeah, it does. It could fit in there. You know,
Yeah.
you got to wonder if maybe that influenced, because Fist of the North Star movie made its way around the world way long before there was a
no Mad Max is the influence for Fist of the North Star.
Okay, I would have said that.
And it's in the forward in the when you read the first manga, but the fact that, like, you know, because remember, most of the Mad Max movies, all of them actually just take place in
Australia.
You don't have no clue what's going on around the world and everything. And that could work, like a whole society completely just detached from the world because of economic stress or whatever's going on. And then, like, maybe the world recovers, but they don't. It's kind of very 28 days later, 29 or 28 weeks later kind of feel, where, you know, London, when you find out that, like, London was the only place, or the UK was the only place that was affected by this, but everywhere else around the world was okay. So it's like, that's the zombie apocalypse kind of thing.
Well, you know what would be funny is if you did a movie like that where Max gets on a boat, finds, you know, ends up in I get who would be the closest person to Australia? I don't have a globe.
The Philippines or Indonesia?
I was trying to think away from the islands, more of wouldn't be Africa, would it?
No.
What?
You're thinking like a big landmass, like
India?
Yeah,
a big landmass. Yeah, a big landmass.
Yeah, it's probably India then.
Asias, right?
Because I wouldn't say
it would have been. Yeah, it would have been like the Asias or
like the East Asian portion.
I'm trying to get it away from New Zealand and some of the
so Australia is close to several continents, including Antarctica, Asia, and Oceania. Ooh, wow! I didn't realize that
So
was actually.
yeah, Antarctica.
Either that or just
You go to Antarctica and it's this beautiful paradise now because it's no longer covered.
No, I was talking about
ice.
Oceania. It might be my sleep deprivation is starting to make me see things, but I could have sworn that was just a 1984 thing. But alrighty then, learning something
And
new.
Well,
finds out
that is definitely
finds out
something we
that
can talk
there's
about.
something better out there, and then him trying to, or maybe because Australia had the nuclear war, it's quarantined, so it's all gone to hell, and the rest of the world is still living like a normal. And
Well-
just have a plane go over.
Yeah, let's pull it the village kind of ending. No, but also like solar babies can take place in that universe.
Yeah.
Technically Tank Girl could take place in that universe.
No, because Tank Girl had giant
Marsupial and
marsupials running around that like to have sex with women. We're talking about the movie. We're talking about the movie.
At least,
okay, good.
That it was in
Yeah,
the comic.
I was getting a little worried. I was getting worried there for a second.
because at least we'd have Malcolm McDowell in this series.
He'd be take 2 steps and turn into dirt. I think
as
he
old
just
as he is
wants
now.
to, as old as he. I think he just wants to relax with the rest of his life and do voiceovers.
Well, that's definitely an episode we could totally do, is just talking about the interconnected universe that we make ourselves with movies that have similar elements that could take place in the same universe.
Yeah, like they
We'll just go
say
down this
Blade
rabbit
Runner.
hole.
They like Blade Runner, Alien, and Outland are all supposedly based on what people say the aesthetics of the films are the same universe, and then you can add Soldier to that as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, of course. And then you could remember Terminator is the alternate universe of Alien, where machines rise up instead of Wayland Yutani. Because remember that's
No, I thought that one lady was claiming that Terminator and the Matrix were supposed to be the
no,
same universe
no.
because she created them.
When Cameron was doing the stuff for Aliens, he put in similar technology and things that were of Terminator, and in an alternate universe. He stated this, in an alternate universe, they're parallels, but they're different.
Right, but there's a lady out there who claims that she's the actual creator of both the Matrix and I think the Terminator franchise, and she claims that both of them are the same shared universe.
And she's
she's the one who tried to sue and lost the lawsuit, right? Against Cameron for Terminator.
Yeah, but she still sells like books that claim to be within those universes and all that kind of stuff. I remember finding out about that and it was like, wait, what? What are you claiming? And yeah, she was a sci-fi writer that submitted stuff to Cameron and then claimed like a year, he rejected whatever it is that she sent in. But then a year later or so, Terminator came out and it was exactly what she had given him. And then she did the same thing with the Wachowskis and all the rest of that.
Proven to be completely wrong.
Well, and I mean, it happens even through. Yeah. Is Wubs still there? He's awful quiet.
Yeah, I'm here.
Well,
okay.
He's enjoying the nerd out.
Yeah. Speaking of quiet and all that,
yeah, David's got to
tap out.
Yeah. So all right, we'll go ahead.
Since the school night,
I would really like to talk about in the future about Aliens franchise and how Walter Hill and Geiler tried to steal it from O'Bannon and Sushitz. I never get that right. And this split lore about who created Alien and who had a bigger role, and the fact that how like so much credit is given to Ridley Scott when it was originally O'Bannon who hired the vast majority of all the people involved and had them working on the project long before Ridley Scott ever came in, and he didn't even really want to work with Geiger at first until O'Bannon flew to England, walked in with the Necrocommon and put it on his desk and said, "This is the alien." And he was like, and then the artist in Ridley was like,
"Yeah,
this is it. This is it. I've had a thought. I found our alien." Could you imagine being O'Bannon in the room? You just want to slap the shit out of Ridley Scott. What do you mean we? What do you mean I?
What do you mean?
I really want.
Yeah.
I really, man, I've been on so many alien sites lately, talking about, especially after the new movie came out, which we talk about that? We haven't.
No,
even
we're
talked
not.
about it yet.
Well, we can
We'll
talk
save it
about
for
that a
later.
lot. We'll save it for later, but
Yeah.
we'll
Yes.
save all this conversation for later. But
So
yeah,
yeah.
Colin, of course, had to leave because there's more internet connection issues, and so this is another alternative. He could call in. It's like this, like Wubs did. But Wubs,
Yeah, I will be calling in from now on.
yeah,
just,
dude,
because this actually works.
awesome. Yeah, you coming in perfectly fine, man. There's no like breaking in the call or anything like that. So
That's
No-
how I
no
was.
robot.
That's how I was doing it originally before I got a laptop. I was calling in, and they would make fun of
Yep.
me because of the way I was holding the phone. Because I was like always, and I'm still like that because I don't like setting up like this. I'm not like David. I don't have a recliner.
Hey, it's not a recliner, but it is a very nice chair that I won at work whenever they were doing a little thing. I've never won anything, and then they drew my name. I was like, oh, awesome! And walking up there, like a whole bunch of crap I didn't need, but I was like, ooh, a nice like kind of lawn chair that actually kind of works as being up here in this room since I sit in it quite a bit. So it worked out. I'll take it.
Well,
I have
If I could
I have
only
a
win one
broken
thing, a
desk
decent chair.
Dad,
Yeah,
it's
my
gonna be a little.
desk chair?
It's gonna be a little hard to break in that chair you have, Dad. You need to get a better.
I need a new chair because I have to set up like this and lean in because if I go back, you're going to see my legs go up and probably the chair flip over on top of me.
So you've broken in the chair too well, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, it's broken in.
But
Wrote it hard and put it up wet.
it's broke, all right. It's held together with duct tape, glue, and wishful thoughts. Anyway,
But not
Like-
enough wishful thoughts.
Like when I try to stand up, yeah, I'm wishing, hoping.
what's up,
Happy
Wubs?
thoughts. Think happy thoughts.
Oh, I was gonna say, I just had a question just to follow up on what we were talking about with the Cape Crusader. Do you guys, Floyd, David, like, it sounded like, Floyd, you enjoyed some of the rest of the series. Do you think that it's worth watching or not really?
Here is what I'll tell you, and I tell this to everybody. It's worth watching. Anything can be worth watching because you never know what you personally are going to like. All right, so don't go by what other people say. Don't go by other people's opinions. Watch it for yourself. Make your own decision, and then you're going to find whatever camp you're going to fall into either way. But it has to be really bad for me to come out. And if it's really bad, then I'm gonna say it's trash. Don't go see it. Don't waste your money. But it's free, if you
Got
if
Amazon
you pay
Prime.
for the service. If you got
And-
Amazon,
And I guess
Yeah, and I've
what
got Amazon.
I guess what I would say to that is like depending on what kind of aspects of stories that you like I think that the two episodes that I would say that I enjoyed the most leaned more into the supernatural side of Batman, like the Gentleman Ghost episode, the Nocturna episode. I think those were the two strongest, but I also enjoy those types of characters and stories a little bit more. And I felt like they actually did those justice. Like the Gentleman Ghost episode had Papa Midnight in it. I'm always thrilled to see a reference to Papa Midnight, stuff like that. So, I mean, I also don't know how much free time you have. I know that as more and more of these shows have gotten kind of crummier and crummier to watch, it's like, do I really want to sit there and, devote X amount of time to something that I'm just not getting into? So, like, I would almost say skip the Catwoman episode because it's not a very good iteration of Catwoman. And look at the villains that are in it. If it seems like a villain that you might be interested in seeing an interpretation of, right? Give it a try, see where it goes. And if it doesn't hook you after that, then just dip, right? There's no reason to get through all of it if it's not grasping you, right? Like a lot of these shows, a lot of these movies, I'll give them about 3 episodes, and after about 3 episodes, unless we're going to be talking about it here on the podcast, I'm done, right? It's like I have other things. I have a backlog of stuff that I need to watch, that I need to play, that I need to read. It's like I'm not going to waste hours of my life on crap that I'm hating, and I might, right? There's a slim chance that at the end it might all pull together and I might enjoy it, but yeah, I mean, that's what I would say.
Yeah,
look at
I'll
list.
probably check out the Gentleman Ghost one then, because I like the supernatural Batman stories too.
If you're gonna like
And
that one, you'll like the other one too.
Yeah, the vampire girl Nocturna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
okay.
are probably the two best ones in it. Only because I really
Okay.
like it when Batman fights supernatural stuff.
Well,
You
and you
know,
want to know what? Now that I
Oh,
think
yeah.
about it, those are the two episodes that are the most focused on Batman.
Yes,
Because
they
it
are.
is Batman. Because it is
Okay.
Batman trying to figure out how to deal with Gentleman Ghost, and it's Batman trying to go save the kids and deal with the vampires. So that's the other funny thing is now that I'm really thinking about it, those are the two Batman focused episodes. So yeah, go watch those.
And what-
And that makes
That's
perfect
great.
sense, right? Of course
Right?
you
Yeah.
like those more, because the first two were mostly Montoya and Barbara Gordon, I felt like, more so than Batman, really. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
well,
Okay.
and
That
the
just
fact
clicked.
that in the Nocturna one, he kind of stumbles into that one. He isn't led there. It's him hunting for that missing child as Bruce.
Yeah.
That gives him the first hint that there's something up because he gets roughed up, and he was like, "Why are
Okay.
they beating
But it's
me
Bruce.
up?"
It's Bruce being
Yeah, it's
roughed up,
Bruce.
right? It's
Yeah.
not Montoya
Not
getting
Batman,
roughed up
yeah.
and then Batman showing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, go check those out. Hopefully that'll
I mean, the structure gets better as the show gets,
yeah.
but
And Nocturne is the episode right before you get into the Two-Face episodes, and what the Gentleman Ghost is like 2 episodes before that. So you're talking about towards the end.
Yep.
But I mean, like overall, I would say that like unless they really tighten up the writing and really get more, unless they actually get some creative minds into the show, I don't know that I care about a second season, to be honest.
I don't think it's going to get one
it's not
because what
gonna
I've
get
read,
one.
it doesn't look like there's getting one.
And
This was a one-shot deal.
This was also done around the time before. I'm pretty sure this was pitched to.
It was supposed to be on Max.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
but it was probably pitched to
which is going to become
James Gunn.
HBO, which is going to become HBO again. That's a whole other show.
But I'm sure this was pitched to James Gunn before everything was going to be finalized, before they even got to the point where
And actually, this was even started before James Gunn was
right.
even
So I mean,
selected,
it's still
so
that old guard.
was
So there's
kinda-
no reason for them to continue it. It's just
Yeah,
a
it was
one and
green-lit.
done. But
Wubs, I got for me, like I'm always talking about how a show needs a few episodes or maybe a whole season to get its legs, because sometimes the writing doesn't click, sometimes nothing works. And then they all of a sudden they hit it towards the end of the last show, and then they carried that over to the second season, and then these shows get 7 seasons, and it's because it takes a while to get there. The problem is too many studios do not allow it to happen anymore. You either hit on when when you hit the ground, you hit the ground running, or you're going to get pulled. So one thing I'll do is if I'm not clicking with the 1 or 2 episodes, I go and watch one of the 2 last episodes. Won't go see the last episode because I don't want to know how it ends. And if by say, the second or third to the last episode, if I'm not clicking with it, then I'm going to be where David is. I'm not going to waste my time.
so let's wrap up, Dad. David's got to go.
Okay.
I'm like,
yeah, I'm down to 5 hours of sleep if I like go to bed right here in this chair. So
I didn't realize it was 11.
Yeah.
Sorry, David.
Yeah. No, you're good.
But everyone, you got to check it out. It's worth a watch. I mean, if you can't get past the first like 4 episodes, don't stress yourself out. But if you can make it past those 4 episodes, you're going to get some good quality episodes. They finally kind of find their pacing with the last 4. But yeah. If you've seen it, tell us what you thought of the show down below, what you've been watching, what movies you've been checking out, any games you've been playing. Let us know down below in the description. Remember, we will be back next Saturday with the 100th episode, and that will be live. We will be doing our discussion on something. I will figure it out, and then it'll be fun and entertaining. We'll have quite a few guests on. But in the meantime, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll catch you later.